All right, good afternoon. Welcome to Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections and Voter Registration. Happy Election Day. The date is May 21st, 4:30 p.m. We are at 2555 Lexington Road, Athens, Georgia. First item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Chair entertains a motion.
I so move.
Okay,
A second.
all right, motion is Fambro. Second by Mr. Kadir. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, agenda is adopted. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Any member of the public wish to make a comment? Hearing none, we will move on. Next item on the agenda is election day update. If the board members have a pressing comment they wish to make, go ahead and make it, but otherwise the chair recognizes the director. You're recognized.
All right, thank you. Just wanted to highlight a couple of things, well, not a couple, but a few. Things that I think we need to make known, being full transparent with things that have gone on today. One thing that I want to mention is that all of our locations opened up timely this morning. There was no need for us to request an order from the Superior Court judge. And kudos to our poll workers and poll managers who are still at this very moment receiving our voters and providing an excellent voter service to our community. Want to make sure we mention that. We have had a few things that I want to bring up. One is an issue that came up during advanced voting with voters of Oglethorpe Avenue from house number 147 to 545. We identified that there was an error, but at the same time identified when we found the error that there had been no voters who had cast ballots, incorrect ballots, but we were able to catch that error. We notified the candidates of Commission District 2 whom were affected by this change as well. We went to the homes, I believe it was 24 houses of the 66 voters that we identified assigned to Oglethorpe Avenue. Two of our clerks drove over and left flyers on their doors and in their mailboxes to inform them that they were registered to vote in Commission District 2, because that could have played a factor on them going to the polls. Want to make sure they knew about that. We have had some issues with Jarvis, which is the voter registration check-in system, that also delayed some of access to the My Voter page through the Secretary of State's office. And we immediately came up with some contingency plans so that we could assist our poll workers as they were calling with looking up voters in the voter system. Some of those issues have cleared up and it's still kind of slow, but voters are still being checked in. We had some voters who were in precincts, maybe in the wrong precinct in the system, and we were able to find where their correct polling location was. And so we've issued a lot of voter passes today at some of our polling locations to allow voters, after they have stood in line, if there were lines, at the polling locations, and that allowed them to go to the front of the line if there was a line at the correct polling location. So we used a lot of those today. We've had to go to one particular precinct, Clark Central High School, where they were having some issues with their poll pads. We were able to get, thank you, Lisa and her team, who were able to get poll pads delivered there. And so my understanding, they're up and running smoothly now. Want to make sure that was known. We had some reports of sign issues at formerly Chase Elementary School. It's now J. Burbs School. And that issue was addressed, and we staff, they're still handling calls right now as we speak. So shout out to our staff. I got an email from our clerk of court, Elisa Zarate. I noticed there was she let me know that her name was misspelled on the ballot. She is uncontested, thankfully. And, but I assured her that we would definitely make sure it's spelled correctly in the November ballot, on the November ballot, where her name was spelled Eliza instead of Elisa. Want to make that known. Let's see, I can't think of anything else, staff. Y'all can think of anything that I might have missed. We did have, an issue again at the Winterville Winterville Cultural Center. A voter, same voter, Mr. Howard, who, is, demanding that he receive a paper ballot, and said that we are in violation of his constitutional rights. But I explained to him that there's only one vote system, that we're using, that the voters do not have a choice of their ballot, the way they cast a ballot. So threat of a lawsuit, but.
And I witnessed that conversation and the person was insulting and very rude to Director Sosby. So she handled it very well.
Can y'all think of anything else? We did early tabulation, started early tabulation yesterday at 2:00. That ended at 5 p.m. and we started again today at 2:00. And now we're waiting for ballots that may be returned by 7 p.m. and we'll be ready for our uploads.
All right, great.
Oh, one more
Yep.
thing, I'm sorry. I want to report that we had 4,828 voters who cast ballots during advanced voting. We mailed out 1,002 ballots, absentee ballots. As of 3:30 p.m. today, we have received 791 ballots. At 2 p.m., we have reported 3,627 voters who had cast ballots. That gives us at around 3:30 about 9,246 voters that have voted. A very low turnout. That's about 13%. So I'm hoping that in the next 2 hours, we'll have more, hopefully.
Here's hoping.
Yes.
All right, is that all you have?
Yes.
All right, anybody have any comments, concerns, questions, updates? Board members?
Just a quick question to Mr. Clark. What was the issue with the poll pad? There was just actual problem was with the pad, not the internet or anything.
They're not connected to the internet.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so the actual problem was the poll pads themselves. Something was going on with the function where they encode the voter access card. Not something I'd ever seen before. So after reaching out for help, we just went ahead and made new poll pads for them.
That card reader or something?
The card reader, the encoder is the card reader.
The little thing in the end, yeah.
So each precinct typically, I mean, they all have more than one poll pad, so.
All three of them were having the same issue.
Interesting.
I went to Oglethorpe Avenue and I spoke to the manager and a couple people there, and they shared that estimated between 30 and 40 voters today had come in and had not, they were in the wrong precinct. And either because, and this is just estimates, we estimate about half of them were in each of the situations. Half of them either just did not vote in the March election, so they were just going by habit, and they're, new precinct, they had not changed their habit. But half of them came in with a precinct card with Oglethorpe on their precinct card, but it must have been one of the ones that was the mistaken batch that we had to send the corrections out. Anyway, so, and as I was talking to them, I realized they have so much to worry about. They didn't have a list of who the people were. It'd be great to know who those people were, to track down what it was. He felt like, he knows some of the people over there. He said that some of them, were from Homewood Hills, a good cluster of them. Anyway, just sharing what I heard from them. I hate that we're still dealing with the after effects of the redistricting and then the software that the Secretary of State used for the precinct cards, but I hope, did y'all from the precinct y'all went to, were any issues like that happening?
I talked to one lady, but she was referring to Oglethorpe and Whitehead and some mix up there. But I reminded her that we held multiple public input sessions and posted in the newspaper and had many opportunities for advertising it at the precincts and signs, so. And I said, if you have any further questions, then please call the office. That's where the source of information comes from. So,
humbling reminder, that, like you told us during that process, that we can do all these things, put signs up on the highway and send out letters, but there are people who are not gonna pay attention because they voted the same place for 40 years. And if you change that, that just, they're not aware of that.
And if I could add also, we had several calls where voters had called and said that they checked their voter registration on my voter page, and it showed some status of challenge, but showed them active. And, we pulled their names up on, the Jarvis, in Jarvis, and was able to identify that, yes, they were eligible to vote, were active, right precinct and everything. And as I was speaking with someone from Secretary of State's office this morning, I mentioned that we had this issue, and I was told that we weren't the only county who reported that. So there are some issues with Jarvis. So I'm hoping that that's, I hope we have been able to give our voters the proper service that they needed today to be able to vote.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that one, because that happened when my wife went online and came and said she's a challenged voter, and I said, I wonder what happened. I really thought she made a mistake, but she logged back in or went back in 5 minutes later and it was cleared up, so.
I actually heard about that from one other person, same thing, but, a note that I have going off the last comment you made is, so Jarvis did go down. We talked about that already. But, I happened to be in the office when it happened, and I'd like to commend you and your staff. They just immediately went into problem-solving mode. How can we do, what list should we do? Let's make sure we're keeping it open. The phone was like boom, 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 boom. It went crazy for like an hour. So kudos to you and your staff for, was really proud to watch that. So good job there. Anyone else have any other comments? The only other thing that I wanted to bring up regarding election day, and apologies to the folks in the room who've heard me say this 50 times already. But this morning when I went to Timothy Road, which is one of our polling precincts, there was a police officer there, parked up front, stationed inside in the room, right inside the hallway, and was like, what? So I called a member of our staff and said, hey, do you know anything about this? And they didn't know anything about it. And it turns out that the school district, again, much like they did 2022, I believe, hired an off-duty ACC police officer to sit at the school. Now, if folks remember, we had a joint meeting with the school board and our board and the chief of police and the sheriff and our staff and the city manager, and everybody was there. We all came to an agreement that we would not have uniformed police officers at our precincts. And there was one there today, so, I asked my fellow board members if we can investigate this or get to the bottom of why it happened, where the miscommunication happened, why this is, happening. So, it's kind of the update on that.
And Chairman Raffle, y'all keep prompting conversations in my head.
Sure.
So, I wanted to mention also that we were informed by, I believe it's the tennis center, that there was a DJ getting ready to set up his equipment at one of the polling locations in the center. And so, there is something that's going on where there's gonna be a DJ at multiple polling locations in the state of Georgia. They got this cleared through the Secretary of State's office. We didn't know anything about it. But, yes, so there's a DJ that's set up there, and then I believe between 5 and 7, the DJ will go to another location.
I heard from another voter that they got a text that said one of the candidates is going to have a DJ, which makes me think that those two are one party's,
Yeah.
some kind of something happening, but
But DJ.
my question is.
Yeah.
It sounds fun to me, but my question is, as long as they're out of the 150 feet, then it's none of our business. Right,
Agreed.
yeah. If that's all we have for election day, we can move on to new business. And real quick, we'll try to make this, let's set a timer. Sure. To just make sure we stay on task here for this. 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Proposed resolution requesting additional funding for expanded Spanish language translation. That's what the agenda item is.
Mhm.
At the last agenda meeting, Mr. Kadir and I were supposed to sit down, which we haven't done. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to even review it.
No, I did review it a little bit.
Okay, yeah, Adam and I drafted a resolution last night and sent it to the attorney's office. What did you have a chance to look at it as well?
I did not.
Okay. What was the language we used? Adequate funding, I think.
Would you want to just jump into it, or would you like some context for?
Yeah, why don't you just,
So to kind of catch us up with how we got here. Last year, we were successful in requesting and having added to the budget funding for Spanish translation, like a baby step toward it. And then last fall, because of the speed and the time scale at which the county county government operates, this current fiscal budget coming up, that would include the November election, we would have to get requests in by last fall. And so we had discussed not about whether we wanted to do it, but whether we wanted to keep our options open to be able to come back this summer and decide whether we wanted to expand it or not. And so we were in agreement that we wanted to keep our options open, request it through the budget process, and then reconvene around this time after this election to decide whether we wanted to use that funding if it existed. The county government, through its budget process, did not accept our request and did not include that in the budget as is proposed by the mayor. Now it goes to the county commission, and so I realize we have, the whole reason that we're here is elections, and that's going on right now, but the reason this is important right now is because the commission will vote on the budget in the next few weeks, I understand, by the end of the next month. And so it's kind of getting to be now or never if we wanted to still keep our options open. So what I'm proposing we talk about, like I mentioned in the email this morning, not that we decide right now whether we want to do the Spanish translation expansion, but whether we want to ask the commission to include that funding to keep our options open. We may yet come back next month with a yes from them and say, we don't want to do it next year, but I don't want our hands to be tied and force us into saying, we can't do it anyway. That's the context I'm working in here. I'm not trying to sneak something past y'all, because you were very gracious last fall saying, yes, we'll keep our options open. So that's where I'm coming at this from. Not about trying to say we should do this. I'm just saying we should ask the commission to include that funding. And then just the last thing I'll mention to kind of tee this up is I double checked with Director Sosa about the numbers. If we do not have any more money added to the budget for the elections office, she confirmed what she told us last week, that there will only be enough money remaining to do the admirable steps that we've taken so far, but not Spanish BND voting. That would take the amount that she quoted last week, estimated about 15,000 more. And so the kind of the path ahead of us is, if the county commission does not decrease our budget allocation, we will have enough money remaining to continue the same kind of transaction we've been doing. It won't all go away, but we also have the option, if we wanted to, expand if we had a dollar amount of about $15,000 to $20,000 added to our fiscal 25 budget. That's where we stand right now. I got clarification after the email this morning. So that's kind of where we had been coming from with the draft resolution. I wanted to kind of put that up there first to see what y'all's thoughts were, or I can read the draft out loud, or whatever y'all think is best.
I was gonna say, I don't think it's fair to force a vote right now if they haven't had a moment to fully read it,
Sure.
unless you two have a different thought on it, but.
Well, one thing, the meeting last week we discussed was, had a little bit of a discussion, and as I recall, we were going to draft a resolution, not asking for specific funding, but ask the mayor and commission to let them know that funding has not been given, and if they would like to have a resolution asking us to proceed with the Spanish language translation and whatever it takes. That's why how y'all had put together, it's just a draft, I understand. You know, I just feel like I'm voting against the manager and the mayor. It's something, if they wanted it, they would have put it in there. This is a political process, like it or not. We were appointed by them. And if they want to pursue this, then it should start from there like it does in, I think, in Gwinnett County or DeKalb County, where the commission came down and said,
That's incorrect.
that's not correct.
That's not correct. In Gwinnett County, they're mandated by law. And the Board of Elections in DeKalb did it. There was no mandate.
Okay,
there.
Gwinnett County was
Gwinnett County is a separate thing. You can't,
Okay,
we don't have the demographics to be mandated for it,
correct.
so.
And
and-
my main issue from day one is pretty much the same. We are focusing too much on BMDs and putting the balance. I am always in with you when it comes to bringing in Spanish-speaking voters to come to register first. Then we can see if there is a need for it. Otherwise, this money is just wasted. And as you know, folks right now very upset about their assessments on the home. And last thing we want to push at something, I don't want this to come from us. I want this to come from the mayor and commission. They're in, I'm in. That's how I generally feel about it.
I have a question. Can I ask you a question?
yeah, maybe so.
So, my question is, to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying, is, in your mind, you're asking us to have them tell us that they want Spanish translation?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Then we can turn around and ask them to
So-
include it in the budget.
I think that's an implied by the resolution,
It does.
because we're asked, if they follow through with our ask of adequate funding, not naming a certain number, then that's by them funding it. That's them telling us
Could be.
that.
I don't like the asking, as I recall from reading it this morning, we do have a number there.
In the draft, there is no number.
There is no-
I'm aware of the number of what we estimate, but the draft has no number on it.
And that's why we chose that language, because I hear what you're saying is you don't wanna say, hey, we need this, we need this. Let them be the deciding factor of, okay, well, maybe this wasn't enough. They asked for this, maybe we can give them this. And I think that it's although our body is not elected, we're
I mean,
a political
A political
body of
body.
sorts
yes.
to another political body, asking them to do
Yeah.
something. So I think that the manager's office is not part, it's past
True.
them at this point.
At this
I
point,
don't think it's
yes.
for or against so, yeah, but, that's all I have.
I want the resolution just to let the mayor and commission know that they have not put this in their budget. And
So
not ask them.
that,
There's a
that
little
part
difference
was,
there.
that part was clarified by Charlotte, and
Okay.
that it was a new initiative last year. They funded the 15,000. Now it turned into regular operating expense. And
Yes,
so unless they pull it out, it will continue
okay.
on. Which is why we're using the word adequate. Because it's, that amount of money is inadequate to do what we had initially thought. Ms. Bamber?
First of all, maybe I shouldn't be on this committee, because I think that I was selected to make decisions, make ask of the mayor and commission for what we think is right for the people. So maybe I'm in the wrong room. And if it's just political, I know I'm in the wrong room. And if they're gonna make all the decisions for us, I am leaving. That's all I got to say.
So we have a draft that's been sent. I think you accidentally left me off the email.
Yeah.
Because now I'm hearing that it's been sent, but I never saw it sent. We have a draft that we could potentially adopt. I opened the floor for that, but I think we could also table it till Monday
I'd like to
if
table it.
you folks wanted a moment to, so would you make a motion to table it until Monday?
Right.
I so move.
Friday, thank you.
I mean,
Friday.
Friday.
I was like.
Friday, sorry, so it's just always has been, yeah. Are you making that motion to
Yeah.
table this agenda item until Friday? You want second?
I'll say,
Okay, all those in favor of tabling?
yes.
Yeah,
Aye.
yeah, okay. All right. Mr. Secretary, would you read the announcements, and then the floor is open to adjourn?
I will, one moment, please. Get into motion, approve unanimously. Is that 6 minutes left spare? Announcements. Today, last day to vote in the May election. Friday, May 24th, 6 p.m., special meeting for election certification right here at 2555 Lexington Road. Tuesday, June the 11th at 4:30 p.m. will be our regular meeting at 120 West Doherty Street. If a runoff is necessary after today's election, this is a timeline of important dates for that. Friday, June the 7th would be the deadline to request absentee ballots for that June runoff. By Monday, June the 10th would be when advance voting would begin for the June runoff. And then Tuesday, June the 18th would be the last day to vote in that June runoff, again, if a runoff is necessary.
All right. You want to make a motion to adjourn?
Sure, I move that we adjourn.
All right.
A second.